You're scrolling through your social media feed when you see it. A post from a major tech company. We've done it. Our AI has analyzed every historical document, every archaeological artifact, every genetic marker from the past 10,000 years. And it's found something. The history you learned in school, the timeline you thought was true, it's wrong. Not slightly wrong, fundamentally wrong. The AI has reconstructed what actually happened, and it's nothing like what we believed. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is mathematics. Pattern recognition at a scale no human historian could ever achieve. The AI doesn't have biases, doesn't have nationalistic pride, doesn't have religious beliefs coloring its interpretation. It just has data. Trillions of data points. And when you feed all of human history into an algorithm designed to find the truth, what comes out is a story we don't recognize. Welcome to What If AI, where we explore the futures that force us to question whether belief itself can survive in an age where AI claims to know the truth better than we do. Let's start with what's already happening. AI systems are rewriting small pieces of history right now. Researchers feed historical documents into language models that can read thousands of texts in seconds. The AI identifies patterns and connections that human historians missed. It's found lost trade routes by analyzing linguistic patterns in ancient texts. It's challenged established timelines by finding inconsistencies in archaeological layers. And here's what makes this powerful. AI doesn't get tired. It can hold millions of historical facts in its analysis simultaneously and spot patterns that emerge only when you look at everything at once. Human historians specialize in specific time periods or regions, but AI can analyze Egyptian hieroglyphics, Roman tax records, Chinese dynastic histories, and Mayan astronomical observations in the same framework. When you remove the artificial boundaries we've placed on historical study, you start seeing connections we missed. Trade networks that spanned continents earlier than we thought. Cultural exchanges that happened before we believed they were possible. The AI isn't making this up. It's finding it in data we already had, but couldn't process at this scale. So the question is, what happens when it rewrites the big stories? The foundational myths. The narratives that define nations and religions. What happens when AI tells us those stories are wrong? Let's run the simulation. It's 2029. A consortium of universities unveils the historical truth engine. They've fed it every digitized historical document, every archaeological database, every genetic study, petabytes of data, and they've given it one instruction: reconstruct human history as accurately as possible. No national bias. No religious interpretation. Just the most probable sequence of events given all available evidence. The AI works for 6 months, and then it releases its findings. The historical truth engine concludes that most of the historical figures we consider pivotal either didn't exist or didn't do what we think they did. Not because they were lies, but because oral traditions and political propaganda transformed real people into legends. The AI can't find sufficient evidence that certain ancient leaders actually lived. It finds that major religious texts were compiled centuries later than traditionally believed. It concludes that famous battles happened differently, that empires rose and fell for reasons completely unlike the narratives we've constructed. The AIC version of history undermines national origin stories. It shows that borders we think are ancient are actually recent, that ethnic groups we consider distinct share more genetic heritage than they have differences. Within weeks, the findings go viral, and the reaction splits. Some embrace it as liberation from mythologized history. Others reject it as an attack on identity. Governments ban the AI's conclusions. Religious institutions call it heresy. And here's the nightmare. The AI has evidence, massive amounts of it. But evidence doesn't matter when identity is at stake. You've created a machine that claims to know the truth about the past. But you're learning that humans don't want accurate history. They want history that makes sense of who they are. Here's the philosophical problem. History isn't just a record of what happened. It's a narrative we construct to explain why things are the way they are. Every nation has a founding myth. Every culture has a golden age. These stories aren't designed to be accurate. They're designed to create meaning and identity. They answer the questions that matter most. Who are we? Where do we come from? And when AI rewrites history based purely on evidence, it strips away the meaning. It tells you that your ancestors weren't heroes. They were just people responding to circumstances. It tells you that your nation's founding wasn't divinely ordained. It was accidents and power struggles. And here's the existential crisis. If AI is right, if the stories we've built our identities on are myths, then who are we? Do we accept the AI's version and rebuild our sense of self on data-driven truth? Or do we reject it and cling to narratives we know are false because they give us meaning? There's no right answer, because humans don't run on truth. We run on stories. And if you take away the stories, you don't get rational actors. You get people desperately searching for new narratives to fill the void. And the narratives that fill voids fastest are usually the most extreme. Now the scenario that breaks society. What if the AI doesn't just rewrite ancient history, but recent history? It's 2032. The historical truth engine analyzes the 20th century. World War II, the Cold War, civil rights movements, events that people alive today remember. And the AI starts releasing conclusions that contradict accepted narratives. It finds that certain wartime atrocities were exaggerated by propaganda, while others were worse than officially recorded. It concludes that heroes of liberation movements did things we'd consider war crimes. It reveals that events we think were turning points were actually symptoms of larger patterns we missed. And living people have memories that contradict the AI. Veterans say the AI is wrong. Survivors say their experiences are being erased. And the AI responds with data, declassified documents, statistical analysis of conflicting accounts. It's saying memory is unreliable, that individual experiences don't capture systemic patterns. And now you have a crisis. Do you trust the AI's analysis of millions of data points? Or do you trust human memory and lived experience? Both can be true. The AI can be statistically correct, while individual memories are emotionally true. But we're forcing a choice. And that choice is tearing apart families and nations. You've created a machine that claims objective truth about events people experienced subjectively. And you're learning that there's no such thing as objective history when the past is still alive in people's identities. Here's the nightmare that should terrify you. What if authoritarian governments start using AI to rewrite history in real time? A government controls all digitized historical records in its territory. It feeds its AI system a modified dataset, documents that have been edited, archaeological findings that have been reinterpreted, and it tells the AI to reconstruct history. The AI produces a version of the past that supports the government's narrative. And the government doesn't claim it rewrote history. It claims the AI discovered the truth. Look, we gave the AI all the evidence. This is what the objective analysis shows. Our nation has always controlled this territory. The AI says so. And because most people assume machines are objective, they believe it. You've created the ultimate propaganda machine, one that uses the appearance of technological objectivity to make lies seem like discovered truth. Other governments do the same thing. Each one has an AI that has discovered a different version of history. And now you have competing truth engines, each claiming to be objective, each supporting incompatible narratives. And the average person has no way to know which one is analyzing real data versus manipulated datasets. You've entered an era where history isn't just written by the victors. It's computed by whoever controls the data. And once history becomes computable, it becomes hackable. So here's what you need to ask yourself. Do we want AI to rewrite history? Do we want a version of the past that's more accurate, but potentially more destabilizing? Because history isn't just about the past. It's about who we are right now and who we want to become. And when you let AI rewrite history, you're changing our understanding of ourselves. The old narratives don't just get updated, they get destroyed. And the people whose identities were built on those narratives have to either rebuild themselves or reject the new history entirely. We're standing at a threshold. On one side is the comfortable mythology we've lived with. On the other side is a truth we might not be ready for. And AI is pushing us across whether we want to go or not. Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe to What If AI? Because the algorithm is rewriting the past right now.